Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Viking Size Gamer, and today I want to talk to you about a subject that really needs to be covered before WWE 2K19 comes out, and I'm sure a lot of you have the same opinion as me. Now, we're going to get straight onto this, and I'm going to say it straight away. Before I do that, just before, I would like to encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel for more WWE 2K19 news as it comes out, because we are going to be covering it as soon as it does come out, in bulk, in bits. It doesn't matter how it comes out, I will get that news to you as soon as possible. We'll also be covering any rumors that comes out as well, because you never know, they could end up being true. And basically we'll get as much detail to you as possible regarding the release of WWE 2K19. I am really looking forward to what this game has to offer, and I'm sure you guys are as well. But first, here comes the thing that we're going to talk about tonight. And tonight we're going to talk about loot crates. So this whole video is basically based around the fact that loot crates in WWE 2K19 couldn't be a worse idea. Now, I know every single one of you probably has the exact same opinion as me. Loot crates in WWE 2K18 simply did not work. The reason why that was is mainly because they tried to make it for moves, they tried to make it for costumes, they tried to make it for bonuses, and it kind of more tied into Road to Glory. The problem then led into it just bled into My Career, didn't it? And that was really bad decision making on that part, because I don't want to have to spend points that I earn in game on a loot crate that I may or may not get decent moves in, and then have to purchase those moves afterwards as well. It doesn't make any sense to me. Then I also have to use those points as well to up my stats in game. I don't understand where the logic came in to include loot crates in a My Career mode. That doesn't make any sense, not at all. I mean, yeah, fine, if you want to put on something for Road to Glory and use loot crates that way, then that makes sense. If you want to go ahead, you want to improve your person, you know, get your superstar up to a decent level, and maybe you want to spend points that way, fine. But you have to earn those points within game to go ahead and do that. Now, obviously, the idea this year for 2K is for them to make you buy those loot crates with real world money. So they're basically going down the same route as the microtransactions as everybody else has in the last year or so. We've had big game franchises such as the Star Wars Battlefront and the Mordor series introduce loot crates, but also the paid system for these loot crates. Now, obviously, there was a massive outcry by the people who play these games in saying they didn't want them. Star Wars Battlefront, actually, EA turned around and said, you know what, we're going to put this off now, and it looks like they put it off for a really long time, but those loot crates are now actually returning to the game. Now, that's obviously not what anybody really wants, but whether they just put it down to sort of push down the furor a bit, then I can understand that. So that's what they want to do. They want to do that as a business, but it looks like the creators of the Mordor series, Shadow of War, it looks like they're actually taking out loot crates altogether. Any idea of them, anything that had anything to do with loot crates, they have completely removed from the game, and that was after an outcry that people said they didn't want the loot crates. Why do they need the loot crates in there when they have this fantastic system such as the Nemesis system? If you build a game well enough with very well crafted systems, there should be no need for loot crates in the game, and that's where it should be. You should be able to provide DLC that is a fantastic story add-on that will just make people want to continue play the game, rather than having to buy little add-ons just to make the longevity of the game a little bit longer by stretching out the mode that you haven't fully realized. And that's the issue, that's where it lies. If you do not develop a game where a mode is so boring that you have to introduce loot crates to it, then there is something wrong there. It is lazy game development, and nobody appreciates that. Nobody appreciates you trying to thin out the game mode as much as possible, and the only way to make it any good is to sprinkle in loot boxes to try and make it a little bit more appealing, and that's just not right. especially when those loot crates actually end up costing money, and that's not something anybody wants to have introduced to WWE 2K series. This is a bad decision on 2K's part and really does need to be quashed before it even gets added to the game. Now, more than likely, we are probably too late, but that doesn't mean that we can't still have our voices heard on this opinion, because when it comes to the loot crates themselves, you just don't buy them. You don't buy them, and you say on any sort of social media that you don't want the loot crates. You go out there and you tell them that you don't want the loot crates. Nobody should buy any of the damn loot crates. If they're free and you earn them with in-game points, then you know what? Fine. I won't question that. But you know what? When you start charging real-world money to play a game because you stretched out a mode so ridiculously that you have to pay to make it interesting, that's where the issue is lying. Now, also, the issue for me where it lays is pay to win. At the moment, the Road to Glory series, if you just play the game, you can earn the points. You could play the game in Exhibition, you can play the game in Universe mode, you can play in My Career, but if you earn the points, you can buy the loot crates that way. That is perfectly fine if you want to do that, but unfortunately, it does add a portion of buy to win in there, or pay to win, whichever you want to call it. Now, in this instance, that basically means that you can buy little add-ons, you could buy the best moves, you can just keep buying the loot crates until you get the best of everything. But do you want to keep doing that? Probably some of you do. Some of you, but the majority of you will not want to do that because it's not a fair or level playing field. If you're rewarded for playing the game and you're amazing at it and your skill level is fantastically high, then that is fine. That is fair enough. But if you had to pay to get to the upper echelons and you haven't improved whatsoever, then you have taken the competitiveness out of the game. And that doesn't make you want to get any better. You've just paid to play, which you've already done that when you bought the game. So that just doesn't make any sense. And I really hope that they don't have it bleed into My Career and have paid loot boxes in there this year in My Career like they have done so far. I am completely against it and really, really dislike the road that it could lead to. This game does not need loot crates in any way, shape or form, but if they're going to add them in, one, they should not be paid for with real world money, and two, they should not result in pay to win types of items. They should just not be there. They should not be part of it. If you want to make a loot crate that's purely just for clothing, just to make your attires that little bit better, or just to add a certain something, then I can completely understand that. But if you start adding moves in and things like that, that's a whole bad idea. That shouldn't be something that happens in this game. Now, for me, if you wanted to get some moves and you wanted to learn something, and if you wanted to strengthen your character's stats or get some more experience points, you should probably refer back to my previous video, which is the Performance Center concept video. In this video, I went on about how we should use that Performance Center that we started with in the beginning of WWE 2K18's My Career mode to actually strengthen your character, your superstar. That's where we should be going to learn new moves to improve your stats by doing minigames, much like EA's UFC. And that would just make absolute sense there. Your character could start out by learning agility by running the ropes, could do his strength by doing things like, I don't know, using the weights, and you have to complete a minigame with those. Just anything that makes a bit more sense rather than just being in there for the sake of it and then having to buy loot crates to improve everything instead. As I said before, this is really a case of fleshing out your mode rather than putting in things lazily because you can't think of another way to add it. This isn't me really having a go at the 2K producers for WWE, but mainly just me airing my opinion on how they could improve the game and add a real fleshed out mode rather than resorting to loot crates in a cheap way to get more money. And that's not something anybody should do in this day and age. In fact, you should be putting out a product that isn't buggy from the beginning, that really goes through a Q&A test, that really is completely, or as close to perfection as you can get it, and then you can pass out the updates rather than having to put in loot crates and changing those. This should not be on the forefront of what you are developing. Loot crates should be the last thing that you are developing for this game. This should be further and farthest away from whatever it is that you are doing with this game. You should be improving everything and fleshing out all the modes that you have already given us, not trying to sprinkle in things that we don't need, like loot crates. This is once again just my opinion, and I really want to hear what you guys think, because really you are players of the game just the same as me, and I want to know what you guys think of the loot crates. Tell me down below if you think they're an okay idea, if you actually don't mind them, whether you're going to purchase them this year, or whether you are completely against them, will never ever purchase a loot crate and thought they were a stupid idea for WWE 2K18. Let me know down in the comments, okay guys? But for now, I'm going to leave you with this thought: no more loot crates for WWE 2K19. I'll catch you in the next video.